My name is Celeste Moreno. I'm 32 years old, born and raised in Santa Rosa, California. If you told me just a few months ago that I'd be standing on my own 2 feet, pregnant with twins and starting a business, I would have laughed in your face. Or maybe cried. It depends on the day. My life turned upside down in the span of a week. Kicked out of the only home I'd ever known, disowned by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and left with nothing but the clothes on my back, and the truth that no one wanted to hear. It all started with a lie. My brother Damien and sister Lila accused me of stealing money from my parents and having an affair with a married man. Neither claim had an ounce of truth, but my parents, Helen and Robert, didn't even blink before siding with them. No questions, no benefit of the doubt. Just bags packed and a door slammed in my face. My heart shattered in more ways than I could count. I had always tried to be the peacemaker in the family, the one who held things together. But when the storm hit, I was the first one they sacrificed. I was alone, heartbroken, and scared. That's when I called Aaron Bell. We hadn't spoken in a while, but something told me he'd answer. He did, without hesitation. Aaron had always been the steady kind, thoughtful and calm. He was never loud in his support, but he showed up when it counted. This time, he showed up with a couch to sleep on, groceries in his fridge, and 0 questions about my past. Just kindness. And that was everything. Then came the second blow. I was pregnant. With twins. I sat in that sterile clinic room, staring at the ultrasound screen, trying to understand how my life had become so complicated. I wasn't ready to be a mother. I didn't even know where I'd be living in a week. But as the doctor pointed out the tiny flickers on the screen, 2 heartbeats, something shifted. I had been feeling like a discarded piece of trash, but those heartbeats reminded me I was more. I was a mother now, and I had to fight. So I did. With Aaron's help, I found a small apartment in the Mission District in San Francisco. It wasn't much, a studio with peeling wallpaper and squeaky floors, but it was mine. I dug out an old notebook where I had scribbled ideas for a research startup years ago. Leora Labs, a dream I had shelved, dismissed, and almost forgotten. But now, with nothing left to lose, it felt like my last shot at redemption. That's where my story truly begins, not with the betrayal or the heartbreak, but with the decision to rise. I didn't know if I'd succeed. Hell, I didn't even know if I'd make it through the month. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sliver of hope. And sometimes, hope is enough to get you through the storm. My name is Celeste Moreno. I was betrayed, broken, and abandoned. But I am not finished. I am just getting started. I used to think family meant unconditional love. That no matter what happened, the people who raised you and grew up alongside you would always have your back. I believed that until the day my world imploded. Damien and Lila had never really liked me. There were years of tension, subtle digs, silent competitions, petty drama, but I never thought they'd go so far as to lie about me. The accusations came out of nowhere. Damien claimed I had taken money from our parents' emergency fund. Lila backed him up, saying she saw me sneaking around with a married man. Their stories didn't even align completely, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Helen and Robert didn't ask for explanations. They didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. They just stared at me with disgust, and the words that came out of my father's mouth will forever echo in my mind. "You're not welcome here anymore." I remember packing in silence, heart pounding, eyes burning. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg them to believe me. But pride and pain held me back. If they truly thought I was capable of such betrayal, what was the point? My mother watched from the hallway, arms crossed, cold and distant. My father didn't even say goodbye. Damien and Lila hovered like vultures, smug and satisfied. I had never felt so small, so disposable. The worst part wasn't even being kicked out. It was realizing that the people I loved the most thought so little of me. It made me question everything, every holiday memory, every childhood photo, every sacrifice I had made for them. Was it all fake? Was I just a placeholder in a family that never truly saw me? I spent the first night at a motel off the highway. curled up under a thin blanket, crying into a pillow that smelled like bleach. I barely slept. The betrayal replayed in my mind like a broken film reel. But in that darkness, a new kind of clarity emerged. I didn't need them. I wanted them, yes. I wanted the love I thought we had. But I didn't need people who didn't believe in me. I didn't need their approval to exist. And for the first time, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was better off without them. That night, I made a silent vow to myself and to the lives growing inside me. I would create a new family, one built on trust, love, and respect. One that started with me. Starting over sounds poetic until you're the one doing it. There's nothing glamorous about sleeping on an air mattress in a drafty studio apartment or eating instant noodles 5 nights a week. But despite the humble setup, there was a quiet kind of dignity in those early days. This time, every small victory belonged to me, no one else. No shadows of expectation, no voices telling me who I should be. Just me, the twins growing inside me, and a blank page waiting to be filled. Aaron helped more than I could have asked for. He didn't hover, but he showed up when I needed him, with moving boxes, a working kettle, or just a moment of silence on a long day. He encouraged me to pick up the pieces of Leora Labs, that research startup I had once drafted between my grad school deadlines and late-night shifts. I had put it aside, convinced I wasn't cut out for that world. But now I had something to prove. I dusted off the old notes, updated my pitch deck, and started researching startup incubators. One in particular caught my eye, the Bayscale Founders Program, a competitive platform for underrepresented entrepreneurs. I didn't think I stood a chance, not with my situation. Who wants to bet on a single, pregnant woman with no resources? But I applied anyway. I owed that to myself. Weeks passed. I kept busy designing Leora Labs' mission, to make health research more inclusive and community-driven, especially for marginalized voices often ignored in data science. I believed in the idea, even if no one else did yet. I worked during the day and napped when I could, my belly growing bigger and heavier each week. Still, I kept pushing. Then came the email. I had been accepted. Bayscale wanted me. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Me. The woman tossed out by her own family. The woman everyone gave up on. Someone finally saw value in what I had to offer. I cried. Big, messy, relieved tears. That moment shifted everything. It didn't fix the past, but it lit a path forward. This was my new beginning. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't painless. But it was mine. And that made all the difference. The day of my pitch was a blur of nerves and adrenaline. I stood in the green room of a downtown San Francisco tech hub, wearing the only blazer that still fit over my growing belly. My palms were damp. My heart was racing. I had rehearsed my pitch 100 times, practiced every answer, every stat, every slide. But I hadn't rehearsed how to handle the stares. Some looked at me with curiosity, others with barely veiled skepticism. I could read their thoughts. Is she serious? Why is she even here? I kept my chin up, smiled politely, and tried not to shrink under their scrutiny. This wasn't just about funding. This was about proving that I belonged. When they called my name, I walked onto the small stage with my head held high. Hi, my name is Celeste Moreno, and I'm the founder of Leora Labs. We're building an inclusive research platform that prioritizes the health data of underrepresented communities. I clicked through slides, speaking with conviction. Every sentence was crafted from lived experience, every insight rooted in both data and empathy. I talked about the gaps in research, the biases in algorithms, the people who get left behind in health innovation. I talked about my vision, about equity, about dignity, about giving a voice to those who'd never had one. A few minutes in, I noticed a shift. Some leaned forward. A few nodded. One woman, sharp suit, sharp eyes, actually smiled. Her name was Lena Quinn, I later learned, and that smile felt like a crack of light in an otherwise closed room. After the pitch, the questions came. Some were fair. Others felt more like tests. How do you plan to scale this without institutional backing? Isn't this too niche a market? What's your backup plan if this doesn't work? I answered calmly. Clearly, always circling back to the core. People deserve to be seen, and Leora Labs would make sure they were. And then, the question that stung. From a man named Charles Hinton, gray-haired and smug. Don't you think starting a company while pregnant with twins is impractical? I didn't flinch. I looked him square in the eye and said, I think it's the perfect time. I'm building something I believe in, for them, and for the world they'll grow up in. Silence. Then a few claps. Then more. I walked off that stage, not knowing if I'd get funding, but knowing one thing for certain. I had shown up unapologetically, and that, in itself, was a win. That exchange with Charles Hinton could have broken me. A year ago, maybe it would have. His words were condescending, dismissive, the kind designed to shrink women into silence. But something inside me, something born from every betrayal, every lonely night, every morning spent staring at a growing belly, refused to let him win. After the pitch, I didn't go home to celebrate. I went to a nearby park, found an empty bench, and just sat. My hands rested on my stomach, and I thought about the world I wanted my children to live in. One where their mother didn't back down when dismissed. One where they saw that strength doesn't come from approval, but from conviction. That day became my turning point. No more waiting for permission. No more apologizing for who I was, or the circumstances that led me here. I realized then that I didn't need validation from men like Charles Hinton, or from my family, or even the investors who questioned whether I could juggle business and motherhood. I was already doing it. Every day I woke up and kept going was proof. Aaron saw the change in me too. He told me I walked differently, spoke with more weight. I felt it. The heaviness of my past hadn't disappeared, but I had started carrying it with purpose. My pain wasn't baggage anymore. It was fuel. And Lena Quinn? She emailed me later that week, said she was impressed. That my pitch had heart, and more importantly, a plan. She wanted to talk more. It wasn't a yes to funding, yet. But it was a door cracked open, and I would walk through it. I was no longer trying to prove I was worthy. I knew I was. That changed everything. The future no longer feels like a cliff I'm about to fall from. It feels like a trail I'm blazing, one determined step at a time. I still have no guarantees, no deep pockets of capital, no family cheering from the sidelines. But what I do have is purpose. And purpose, I've learned, is more powerful than permission. Leora Labs is slowly coming to life. I'm in the early stages, building out the platform, recruiting advisors who understand the importance of community-first research. Lena has introduced me to a few angel investors who are actually listening. And while no one's written a check yet, they're not turning away either. That, in the startup world, is a victory. I take calls with my laptop perched on a thrifted desk, sometimes in my pajamas, sometimes with swollen feet resting on a chair. The twins kick often now, like they know they're part of this journey too. Every movement is a reminder that I'm not building this future just for me, but for them, for the kind of world I want them to inherit. Aaron has been my anchor. We're not rushing into anything romantic, but there's a quiet understanding between us. He sees me. He doesn't try to rescue me, just supports me where I am. And that's exactly what I need. Sometimes I still ache for my family. The idea of them, more than the reality. I wonder if they miss me, if they regret it. But those thoughts no longer control me. They don't define the choices I make. They are part of my past, not my blueprint. What lies ahead is unknown. But for the first time in my life, I'm okay with that. I trust myself now. I believe in my vision. And I believe in the woman I've become through fire, loss, and resilience. The future is unwritten, but it's mine to write. And I'm ready. This story is rooted in the pain of betrayal, but blossoms through the resilience of personal growth. It's a reminder that even when everything is taken away, home, support, validation, we are still capable of rebuilding. Family dynamics lie at the heart of my journey. The betrayal cut deep because it came from the people I trusted most. But through their rejection, I discovered an important truth. Love without understanding isn't really love. And loyalty built on falsehoods will always collapse. Empowerment isn't always loud. Sometimes it's waking up despite the weight of fear. It's applying for a program you think is out of reach. It's speaking your truth on a stage filled with doubt. My path to empowerment wasn't paved with applause. It was carved through rejection, self-doubt, and quiet victories. There's a theme of perseverance threading through every chapter. I kept going, even when I had no reason to believe I'd succeed. I kept fighting for my children, for my vision, and most importantly, for myself. Perseverance isn't about never falling. It's about getting up every single time. And beneath it all, this is a story about believing in yourself when no one else does, when you're the only one left in your corner. That belief can become your foundation, your fuel, your freedom. This story is mine, but I know I'm not alone. So many women carry similar battles, quietly, daily. I hope this story shines a light for someone else to stand tall and say, I am not broken, I am becoming. In the beginning, I was a woman broken by the ones who should have held me together. I was scared, insecure, and deeply wounded. My identity had been tied to my family's perception of me, and when that was stripped away, I didn't know who I was. But that through each trial, I evolved. I learned to stand on my own. I built a home out of resilience. I built a future out of faith. My sense of self no longer depends on others' approval. I am enough, as I am, where I am. Aaron's character unfolded in the most beautiful way. He didn't come in to save me, he came in to support me. His steady presence reminded me of what real love looks like: patient, consistent, and free of conditions. He believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Together, we grew, not as a couple defined by romance, but as two people rebuilding something meaningful through shared trust and hope. We created a space where I could flourish. The Bay Scale acceptance was a spark I didn't anticipate. It validated the dream I had hidden for so long. The confrontation with Charles Hinton during my pitch became another twist, one that could have broken my confidence, but instead solidified it. It reminded me of the countless barriers women, especially pregnant women, face in professional spaces, and how crucial it is to push through them anyway. But perhaps the biggest twist wasn't external. It was internal. The realization that I didn't need anyone's permission to rise, that I could be both vulnerable and powerful, that motherhood didn't diminish my ambition, it deepened it. Even the relationship with Aaron took an unexpected shape. What started as a desperate call for help evolved into a quiet, steady partnership rooted in respect and healing. There was no grand romantic gesture, no sweeping declarations, just real, consistent presence. That, to me, was the most unexpected kind of love. These twists didn't derail my story. They redirected it. Each one revealed a deeper layer of who I am and what I'm capable of. Life didn't follow the script I had written in my head, but maybe that's the point. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that take the hardest turns. Looking back, I sometimes wonder how I survived it all, how I managed to walk through the storm of betrayal, isolation, and judgment, and still come out not only standing, but stronger. I guess I never knew the depth of my resilience until I was forced to reach into it. Life didn't offer me gentle lessons. It threw me into the fire. And yet, I emerged tempered, not broken. There were nights when I lay awake, listening to the silence in my small apartment, my hand resting on my belly, feeling the flutter of my twins. Those moments were quiet but profound. I wasn't just growing babies. I was growing a new version of myself, one that refused to stay defined by other people's opinions, one that was no longer looking for a seat at someone else's table, but was building her own. The betrayal by my family still stings when I think too long about it. It wasn't just about the false accusations or being kicked out. It was about the ease with which they discarded me, the casual cruelty disguised as tough love. I used to wonder if they ever regretted it, if my mother lay awake wondering if she had been wrong, or if Trina and Michael felt the weight of their lies. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But I've stopped letting their choices dictate my peace. Elliot was one of the rare souls who saw me when I felt invisible. He never tried to fix me. He just stood beside me while I figured it out. That kind of support? It changes you. I used to equate strength with solitude, but I've come to understand that real strength is knowing when to lean on someone and when to stand alone. Elliot helped me find that balance. Leora Labs became more than just a project. It became a lifeline. Every spreadsheet, every failed prototype, every pitch and rejection, it all taught me that creation is a sacred act of self-worth. The world might not believe in you, but if you can believe in yourself enough to start, eventually others will follow. Or they won't. And that's okay too. What matters is that you try, that you keep showing up. Meeting Lena was a turning point, not because she invested in me, but because she saw me as more than my circumstances. She reminded me that women like us don't have to shrink. We can take up space. We can lead. And as for Charles Hinton and the other doubters, I'm grateful to them now. Their doubt was fuel. Every backhanded compliment, every patronizing comment, every, "Are you sure you can handle this?" pushed me further. They tried to box me in, and in doing so, made me fight harder to break out. Now, with my babies due any day and Leora Labs beginning to gain traction, I don't just feel hopeful. I feel certain that I am not the woman who once begged her family to believe her. I am not the woman who cried in an empty cafe, afraid and ashamed. I am someone else now, someone I'm proud of. This journey wasn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It was about proving myself right. And I did. I'm still doing it. One step, one pitch, one breath at a time.